Do you want to spend $500 on a cruise or $500,000 on a cruise? That's the question you need to ask yourself. So planning a cruise is quite an endeavor. I'm going to break it into basically 3 different areas. You're going to have before the cruise, during the cruise, and right before the cruise. That way we have a little bit of timeline on how we're going to do all this and approach all this. And for this whole planning scenario, this is mainly going to be for the Caribbean cruises, because I've never been on an Alaskan cruise or a Western Coast cruise or an Australian cruise or a Mediterranean cruise. So a lot of people are gonna say, should I book this by myself? Should I book through a travel agent? Sometimes booking through a travel agent, which there are quite a few, is usually advantageous because they can usually get you a better deal. But I would also check on your own and see if you can get yourself a better deal, because sometimes you will get your better deal by yourself. But anytime a travel agent tries to charge you money is a scam. They should all be free because they all get commission. So be wary of that. So before the cruise, you got to figure out exactly what you want. And what do I mean by that? The main thing about planning vacations and cruises is you have to know your budget. You got to know if you're going to be spending $500 for the whole cruise, or you're going to be spending $500,000 for the whole cruise. A lot of cruises can be very, very cheap, and they can be very, very expensive. Have you figured out what cruise line you want to go on? You want to go on a Carnival cruise, a Margaritaville cruise, a Disney cruise, a Royal Caribbean cruise, a Virgin cruise? Shout out to you, Virgin Voyages. I'll be on you next. The reason I put that in there is because Virgin Voyages, their cruise line doesn't allow kids on there whatsoever. Maybe you don't want to deal with kids. Maybe you have 10 kids. I don't know. Other questions you got to ask yourself. Do you want to go on a smaller ship and go to a bunch of places? Or is the actual cruise ship going to be your destination? Like Wonder of the Seas, Icon of the Seas, a Disney ship, where pretty much the entire ship is a floating city with a bunch of people on it. There's so many things to do that you don't even have to get off of the ship and onto the ports. Besides budget, the next important thing is obviously, where do you want to go and where do you want to port out of? So if you live in Alaska, are you wanting to leave out of Florida? Do you live in New York and you want to leave out of New York? Are you in New York and you want to leave out of California? How do you want to approach this? How do you want to go about it? The port that usually most people go to is either going to be Port Canaveral in Florida, which is right outside of Orlando, which there's quite a few options to actually get there. There's also Fort Lauderdale and Miami. Those are the biggest ports. There's a bunch of other ones that we probably won't talk about. Another big thing is, what ports do you want to go to? Do you want to go to the Western Caribbean, like Cozumel, Honduras? Do you want to go Eastern Caribbean, like Nassau, Bahamas, St. Thomas, Jamaica, things like that? That's very important to some people. Some people are like, I've never been to St. Kitts, I've never been to Aruba, I've never been to Curacao, I've never been to Mexico, Honduras, Costa Maya, any of those. Other factors you got to consider is, how many days of work can you miss? Are your kids going? Does it match their school schedule? Just remember, summertime, any type of school vacations, the prices will always, always go up. Once you have narrowed down your budget, you got to figure out what cruise line you're going to go on. Then you got to figure out what destination you want to go to, or is it a ship that you want to go on? Do you want to go on Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas? Do you want to go on Carnival's Elation, the smallest ship in the seas? For example, go on a Royal Caribbean ship. We will pick Harmony of the Seas, quite a large ship. So you got to figure out, there are different room options. There's usually an interior room, an ocean view room, a balcony room, and a suite. All of them have different price points, from the cheapest to the most expensive. The ship room that you pick is very important, because you'll be in this for quite some time, and if you're unhappy with it, you're going to be unhappy in general. Some people don't care. Some people are like, I'm never going to go to the room. The interior room is always going to be the cheapest room of them all. Pretty much the advantages here is it's always dark, so you'll sleep pretty good. It's cheaper. The disadvantages are, I don't know if it's 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. because there's no sunlight. You have no idea if you're in port or not. And you lose track of time along with, if you're claustrophobic, there's no windows, you might panic. Ocean view room, slightly more expensive than interior room, usually. Probably anywhere between $50 to a few $100s. You get a little window, a little porthole, a little circle there to look out of, so you won't shit your pants as much. Basically, you can tell if it's day or night. Or if you are claustrophobic, this may help you out. Balcony room, which is a game changer if you ask me. I love the balcony room. It is usually quite a bit more expensive. I'm talking anywhere between, if you get a good deal, $100 to $1,000 more. You do get a balcony, basically a little deck on the outside of your room that you can physically go outside, open the door, be outside, get some fresh air, look at the ocean. Let your clothes dry off whenever they're stinky. That's a very important thing, because when you get wet, your clothes get stinky. The disadvantages obviously are it is more expensive, but totally worth it if you like to drink your coffee outside in the morning time or even in the evening time. Or if you're like me, you like to eat pizza at nighttime and just gorge on it and look at the dark abyss of the ocean and see how small you are. Suite rooms are the Gucci ones. I've never actually gotten a suite. These are usually a few $1,000s more. You do get some amenities like the balcony. Sometimes you even get your own butler. You usually get your own little place on the cruise ship, only suite guests or only restaurants that only suite guests can go to. So that's a perk. Plus, most of the time you can on board early and your room's usually ready before then. Say you finally booked and decided the room that you wanted. It was in your price range. Say you are gonna go on a Norwegian cruise on, I don't know, whatever Norwegian ship there is. I've never been on one, but you get a balcony room and you pay that price for the two people. Then you gotta figure out, hey, how am I gonna get to port? What are all the other things I need to do here? Once you book your cruise and before you actually go on your cruise, which, could be a few days from now, or it could be years from now. I don't know when you booked your cruise. Obviously, the farther you book out, the cheaper it usually is. But there's quite a few things to think about. Do you need alcohol? All alcohol packages are different. They usually charge you every single day. They all have different rules. So I'm not gonna go into all the details of that. Are you going to have specialty dining? Is there even an option for that? Are you going to eat a fancy steakhouse? Are you going to go to a hibachi? Are you going to go to a Brazilian steakhouse? All of these have different packages, or you can pay for them a la carte. Those are things you have to think about. The other things are, do you need Wi-Fi? Are you going to get the slowest Wi-Fi, the fastest Wi-Fi? All of them have different options. If you need to figure out how to get multiple devices, I'll post a link up here in a card and show you how to get a router and the details of fixing all that and save you a bunch of money here that you can pick up on Amazon. And please, for the love of God, get all of your documents in line, because if you don't, you ain't going anywhere. So most of cruises are going to leave from the United States and go to some other country, or even just in the middle of the ocean. I don't know, but they usually have to go somewhere. So you're going to need some form of ID. So please, please get your original birth certificate. I'm not talking about a copy of a copy of a copy that your mom has that she laminated it. Shout out to you, Mom. You always laminate all my stuff. But you need to have the original copy. You can usually get this pretty quick if you contact your state and get a birth certificate. They'll mail it to you. You'll have a certified copy of that. Plus you need a government form of ID. Driver's license, ID card, anything of that will work. Doesn't need to be that real ID shit right now. And please, for the love of God, people, a passport is so easy to get. It's so cheap and easy to get around with, and it lasts 10 years. Please just get one. Granted, nowadays it takes 6 months to get done, but it's so much easier. You'll thank me later when you go on this cruise and you want to go on another cruise and another cruise and another cruise. And don't forget your documents. You can forget anything else, but don't forget your documents, okay? And this is where I talk to you about having travel insurance, because it's very important. Granted, I literally got murdered. Well, my truck got murdered by a deer the other day, and thankfully I have car insurance. And if I hit that deer before I was going on the cruise, I'd be so mad, because I'd be out a bunch of money, sadness, and sorrow that it's brought me. This is a time where you're going to think about getting your shore excursion. So let's say you're gonna go to Costa Maya. I don't know what I'm gonna do in Costa Maya. So they'll give you all these options to look at on your planner, looking at everything. Now, I have a great Costa Maya shore excursion. I'll put it on here. It's a golf cart excursion, but you can Google, you can YouTube every shore excursion and every place that you wanna go to. There's plenty of them for you to look at. But you gotta remember, these cost more. They're not cheap. Now, sometimes I will tell you, if you try to book it through the actual cruise line, you will pay an upcharge, and usually it's not gonna be as good because there's gonna be a bunch of people who go on these shore excursions. The only advantage you have when you book a shore excursion through the cruise line is that you basically will come back and know for sure they're not going to leave you. Say you book a shore excursion off of the ship and it's just some random guy that you met in Jamaica and you don't get back on time. That's not the cruise ship's fault. So you're gonna have to be really good at time. The alcohol packages, everyone's gonna say, is the alcohol package worth it? Well, that depends. A lot of times, if you can do anywhere between 6 and 8 drinks, that includes beer or cocktails of alcohol drinks, then usually it's worth it every day. Granted, whoever's in the room with you has to get the alcohol package. There's a few exceptions to the rule here. And just remember, when you buy the alcohol packages on most ships, you also get specialty coffees, energy drinks, bottled waters. You got to factor those in because those cost more on the cruise ship. A helpful tip on the alcohol package: if you sail out of New York City or Texas, you cannot use it until day 2 of the cruise. They have some weird laws there. You can still get alcohol, but you can't take advantage of your package. This is for all the people with medical equipment and medications. So before you get on the cruise and you're planning, say you need insulin and it needs to be refrigerated, please tell your state attendant that you need a refrigerator and to keep your things cold. If you need boiling water for your breast milk and things like that, they can do that as well. If you need a CPAP machine, you're going to need distilled water, so they can all help you out with that. And sometimes they'll let you put in what you need right before the cruise. So please, please fill out the surveys and everything else before you go on the cruise. There's usually a check-in and things that you have to put in right before you get on the cruise. So that is very important. And before I forget, please check in online when you're supposed to check in online. Because if you don't, your process is going to be so much slower on the day of embarkation. There's always going to be a check-in online date for most cruise lines. They'll ask you for your ID, if you're sick, if there's anything else you need, do you want to put your beds together, all these things. I will also have this magical list that I took a picture of. It'll help you out. That way you have a checklist right before you leave your house. That way you have all of your items like shampoo, conditioner, any just random things that you need. I have a very nice checklist that I'll put right in front of my face. That way you can look at it, you can pause it, and everything else like that. Other important things are, how are you going to get to the port? Are you going to drive there? Are you going to drive from Alaska to Florida? Are you going to fly there? Please get there a day before, if not earlier, before the cruise. Do not travel the day of the cruise or the day of embarkation. That is a stupid, dumbass idea. You have no idea if a meteor is going to hit your car, a deer is going to run into you, your car is going to explode, someone hits you. Please give yourself enough time to get wherever you need. And please book a hotel before you go as soon as you can. You can look at the vicinity, anywhere, whatever's cheaper, whatever works for you. Sometimes if you get close enough to the port, you can actually get a free shuttle from the hotel to the cruise port. Just remember, if you are parking at the cruise port, you have to pay for parking, and it is expensive. It's usually $20 or more a day. There's other places, other cities with multiple parking options that you can look up, but that is going to be an exhaustive list that I will not get into, more than likely. The day of the cruise, please wake up early. Even if your boarding time's at 1 p.m., don't wake up at 12. Wake up early, get fed, eat, be prepared, get all your documents, get all your luggage ready. Whenever you're packing and your luggage, and you're getting your luggage ready, just remember that You're gonna have to keep all of your luggage in your room. No one's gonna wheel it off somewhere. I think someone thought that they were gonna take all their luggage and store it somewhere else that's not in the room. That's not true. You gotta keep all your luggage in your room. You can put it underneath your bed, actually. It works out very, very well. If you're gonna be at port with your luggage, helpful tip, have a few dollar bills, because if you don't tip those guys that get your luggage and put it on to the boat, they will get mad and they'll get pissed off at you and yell at you. You probably need to put $1 to $2 a bag, and you won't see your luggage until pretty much your room's open. And sometimes you won't get your luggage until like 6 p.m. And there's no weight limit on your luggage like the airplanes will say, but you don't want to pack a 100-pound suitcase because that's not going to be fun. And on the day of the cruise, please make sure you give yourself enough time to travel. Either if you take an Uber, a Lyft, if you're driving yourself, if you're coming from the airport, a shuttle, or anything like that. If your onboard time's 11:30, try to get there maybe 30 minutes early to an hour early. A lot of times they'll say, we can't let you on board, but a lot of times they will. Or you could literally just wait out there, because it's better to wait out there outside of the port than miss it completely like some people have. Have all of your documents, people, all of them, please, for the love of God. If you're on board, you're gonna be the happiest person ever. You just gotta wait a little bit until your room's open, unless you got a suite. You can start drinking, use your paper boarding pass to use your drink package. If not, you can still use that and keep paying for all your drinks as much as you want to and can. If you are on Royal, a helpful tip is if you booked any type of dining package, you have to physically go and find someone to do all of your reservations. Hopefully they've changed that, but enjoy everything here. Have a great time. You're on vacation, let loose, have fun. Hopefully these tips will help you out a little bit. If I missed anything, please let me know. If it's helped you out at all, like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully it gave you a little bit of tips and everything else like that.